Okay, I'd like to call to order the Town of Fraser's regular board meeting on October 5th, 2020. Do I need to start over? Okay. Yeah, we'll test. Okay. I'd like to call to order the Town of Fraser's regular meeting to order on October 5th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Can I please have a roll call?
Katie Fisher. Eileen Waldo.
Brian Cirkvenick.
Katie Souls.
Philip Vanderneel is LG Lewis. Is that?
Lewis, is that you, LG?
Okay, maybe not. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes the minutes from September 21st?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes, hello, I'm here.
There he is.
Is that you, Lewis? No.
Hello.
Hello.
Lewis, that is you, right? We can't see you. We can only.
Do you have it going through my headphones?
Doesn't sound like it's Lewis.
No. I think we need to see him in order to.
Okay, maybe mute now.
Just
there.
turn my headphones off if it's up there on.
Can you mute them? Okay, we are now at open forum, so this is when the public can address the board. You'll have 3 minutes to talk. Raise your hand, identify yourself coming up to the podium if you live in the town of Fraser or not, and then online you can digitally raise your hand if you'd like to address the board. So anybody here in the audience? Paula? No? Okay, anybody online? Anybody online want to address the board in open forum? Last chance. Okay. Discussion and possible action, resolution 2022-10-01, Colorado Main Street program. This is Paula Stewart is going to talk to us about this. Welcome, Paula.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Paula Stewart, the chair of VDAC, and I think you had a memo that was sent to you from Sarah and from me asking if you would pass this resolution so that we could reapply to the Main Street. Actually, there's a typo in here. I'm sorry about that. For the Main Street Colorado project, we have put together quite an extensive committee, and including Diane Butler, who is being very supportive, Greg Beckler, Christian Spons, Autumn Bishop, Kelsey Young, Steve Fitzgerald, Debbie Young, Aaron Nichols, Katie Fisher has been involved with us, Neil Funk, Shanna Gann, and myself. And we have had one meeting, and we are going to be having another meeting on October 20th for a short presentation from Gail Langley for those who aren't familiar with the program, who's in charge at DOLA. And she's very supportive of the town of Fraser reapplying with a more extensive application. So I'm here to ask if you would approve it.
Any questions, comments?
Well, I want to thank all the members of that committee because last time around, I was the town board representative and it was pretty overwhelming, their expectations for what they wanted. So thank you. And to the rest of your team for serving on that.
You're welcome. Everybody's very enthusiastic, I must say. And
That's
I think that I think there are a lot of possibilities for support, and not necessarily in large dollar amounts, but as Gail explained at our last meeting, there are additional points available when you're applying for grants for other purposes. So it gives you a leg up in other respects. So,
Wonderful.
so we'll see.
Perfect.
Gonna
Well,
give it a shot.
Thank you for taking the lead on that.
You're welcome.
That any, want to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-1001. I'm supporting the Colorado Main Street program for Fraser.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, motion carries.
Thank you. And there's also a letter that I believe you have to sign, Philip.
Okay, I will,
So you can
do we have?
give
that letter?
everything to Sarah.
Okay,
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
We are now at item 2023 preliminary budget, and this is Rob. Thanks, Rob.
Would anybody like a hard copy of the budget?
I'll take one too if you've got.
So you have a few. I'll take one also.
I'd like one too. Thanks, Rob.
So per Colorado statute, it is required to present you, the governing body with a budget before October 15th. Ta-da. That's, we've hit that statutory requirement. What you have in front of you is a draft or preliminary budget that shows the last 3 years actuals, the current year budget. The green column is kind of where we expect to end by the end of the year, and the projected budget for next year. And what we have is right now, the general fund is the only fund that I don't have in balance yet. All the other funds we got to balance. And that's kind of depends a lot on that end of year projection, where we basically say, hey, here's what we have not spent from this year and we're applying it to next year. That's kind of a funny number right now because we're trying to get a couple capital projects done this year. But if we don't finish them before essentially the end of October, they'll push to next year. So any initial questions or concerns? And next steps will be further budget workshops and such as we refine this to go to a final budget that I hope to have. It's due by January 31st of 2023. I don't want to wait that long. I'd rather have this done in late November, early December and wrapped up so we can make plans off of it.
Historically, I think we've always
Approved in December.
December, yeah, first meeting in December.
So curious, just glancing.
Sure.
Intergovernmental grants
Mhm.
was 110,000 plus over what we had budgeted. What was that attributed to?
That would be arts and public places,
Okay,
separating out some of the fundraising events from Fraser Valley Arts,
okay.
from being internally and buried in a line item within the town budget to now there's a formal ask and the town can fund a separate organization.
Okay, so what did it do to the budgeted funds we had for them?
That is further down.
Do you have a number?
It is on,
Give me the number, please.
yeah, it's at the bottom of Public Works. It's 106740.
And 67,
65,000.
okay.
And that's down from 91.
Thank you.
So as Rob pointed out, this is a preliminary budget. This is an administrative step required by state statutes. We have had 3 meetings with the budget committee, of which Brian Serginick and Louis Gregory are on that with Rob and myself. Been very productive meetings. We've gone into great detail, everything from capital, personnel, and now we're starting to look at the O&M numbers as well. I appreciate their input and their insight and their questions that they're asking. And it's leading us to ask staff wise, how do we address some of these needs? There's going to be some challenges in this next year's budget that we'll be addressing over the next couple of months. And as we work to balance out the general fund and see how we end out the year. But I appreciate the work that the committee is doing and the work that Rob has been doing as well. As long as we're as well as our department heads and our superintendents out in the field and the work that they've done. So been a very collaborative process. I'm very impressed with how it's progressing this year.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think we've deferred a lot of larger projects, and so the budget is harder to balance this year than it has been in the past. But I think we're doing a good job of prioritizing the right things and being conservative on sales tax numbers and all that kind of stuff. So
Right.
I think we're off to a good start.
Well, thank you. for
Excellent.
serving on the
Thanks.
committee, too.
Anybody else? No? Okay. Anything else, Rob? No, that's it. Okay, thanks, Rob.
Short and sweet.
Next is the West Mountain Metropolitan District Board appointment discussion. I just got back from vacations. I didn't know this was going to be on here. No. I don't know. I don't have any information. Who's leading this?
I can set up some initial discussions on that. First of all, I wanted to point out that, the service plan amendment that has been presented to the town, the town has been working to understand the depth of the service plan and really to get up to speed on where we are in the process, what its implications are, understanding, what's being asked, and understanding what options we might want to go back to the Metro District as far as any kind of negotiating tools. But I also want to point out that this will be a very public process. Amending or approving service plans and service plan amendments requires public hearing. It requires public input. But for the most part, in the initial stages, it's a lot of individual study, research, and some amount of negotiation as well. I do want to point out that we have received a lot of public input via email and so forth. A lot of that input has been shared with the Board of Trustees. All of that information will be introduced in public record. The team that has been tasked with looking at the service plan amendment as presented has taken all of that public comment into consideration, and we've weighed what the public is saying on that. But one of the topics that has come up concerns the matter of appointing vacancies on the existing service plan board of directors. Currently, there's 3 vacancies on that board. The only 2 remaining board members include Mr. Lipscomb and his wife Meredith. We've had numerous requests from, I see Joe Landon is on our Zoom call. There's been applications by at least 4 residents within the Metro District, or within that district, applications to fill those vacancies. The reply back from the Metro District board or their attorney, of course, they thanked them for their interest, but said that they're not accepting any applications until next year. But in the meantime, we've been approached by Mr. Landon, at least at the staff level and through the emails to the trustees, requesting that the Board of Trustees and Fraser make appointments based on their understanding of the Colorado Title 32 statutes dealing with special districts. So this has been part of our discussion, part of our discovery with our special counsel, John Camille, it's not Chamil. And we have an opinion from Mr. Chamil related to that. I believe that opinion was put in the packet at the last minute yesterday. We sorry for the late notice, but it just took a little time to get that in a format that we could release without attorney-client privilege. So it's a discussion item tonight as to whether or not the Board of Trustees has the authority to make appointments. And then discuss what next steps would be based on that discussion. So I can turn that over a little bit to Kent, who can explain some of the legal ends of that, or we can just simply go through Mr. Camille's memo. It's about two pages long, 3 pages long.
Hey, Kent.
If you'd like it, I can
Yeah.
summarize what John put in his memo. And maybe I can address some of Mr. Landon's concerns too at the same time. So the essence of John's memo is that he did the research and concluded that the statutory provision that provides for appointment on Metro District vacancies is quite clear that it pertains only to giving that authority to the Board of County Commissioners, even if the Metro District lies within the bounds of a municipality. And he points to the idea that throughout the special district title, all those statutes that are a collection of the special district statutory provisions, there's reference back and forth to who has authority for doing what in what circumstance. And in many of those statutes, there's a combination of co-authority between Board of County Commissioners and municipalities. And in this particular instance, with regard to appointment on vacancies, there's no reference to municipalities having that authority. So his conclusion was that that omission was intentional by the legislature. And that, you know, if there is a desire by the citizens to be appointed, which is great, you know, to public service, just like you guys do, is super, that probably the proper path is to go to the county commissioners and ask them to do the appointment. Now, Mr. Landon sent us an email that disagrees with our special counsel's opinion, and I appreciate his perspective. But I talked it over with John earlier today, and we still believe that our position is sound. One of the things that was sent along with Mr. Landon's email was an opinion from the attorney for Granby. And that attorney had concluded that Granby could in fact make those appointments. But in the memorandum that was sent from that attorney, he hedges. You know, even he admits that the statute doesn't clearly give the authority to the municipality, and that a court could possibly rule otherwise. And so it's John and my conclusion that when there's not express language that gives you folks the authority to do something, and we have to take a leap of faith and imply or infer a meaning, it's probably not wise to go down that path, because you're probably opening yourself up to a fight.
Comments from the board?
All right. This statute that we're talking about, is this like something that the state legislature put in place, or is this something from?
Yeah,
Grant
this
Park
is
State?
part of the Colorado revised statute. So it's a statewide statute, right? It applies to, you know, all municipalities, all local governments.
Yeah, okay. I mean, in reading John Camille's memorandum, I agree with him, but I do think it's silly that it's not our decision when it's within our town borders. That's a whole different fight, I guess, but.
Right.
And we approved the formation of the Metro District.
Right,
And actually here it says Board of County Commissioners of the county which approved the petition may appoint a director to fill such vacancy. Well, we don't have county commissioners that approve this organization.
Yeah, that's kind of I understand why you're reading it that way, and I believe Mr. Landon also had that interpretation, but you have to know a little bit more about how special districts are formed. And they are organized and approved through the district court. So what that sentence is saying, Eileen, is where the district court is located, the county commissioners in that county are the ones who have the authority. It would have been better if they would have taken it a step further when they drafted that legislation and made that more clear, but that's what it means.
Was this do you have any idea if this legislation was passed piecemeal at different times?
Yeah, it's been in effect for quite a while, and it was amended in 1992. I think John mentioned that in his memorandum, but it's been intact since 92.
Hey, Kent, this is Lewis. I'm sorry. I was a little delayed getting on the call, so I'm here now listening to this. I also sent a couple of things from other municipalities where they took a similar action where their boards did appoint board members to metro districts. And it seems to be a precedent throughout the state with multiple municipalities approving those instead of county commissioners. So I'm wondering if you or John could comment on that and why we as a town cannot take the action of appointing, those board members ourselves, since in fact, we did originally approve the metro district, right? We are the approving authority.
Well, actually, you're not the approving authority. It's the district court for Grand County that was the approving authority. And so that's why where the district court sits, then the county commissioners that sit in that same county are the ones that have the authority under the statute. I can't speak to the other municipalities that have taken that position, Lewis, other than they've inferred an intent. And I think it was probably a risky move. Maybe they didn't feel it was risky because they knew the parties involved and they weighed the possibility of repercussions and they were low. In this instance, I would probably counsel you that the possibility of repercussions are probably high to take this move.
I do know that the city of Castle Pines was one of those examples that was provided. But in the case of Castle Pines, that metro district actually went bankrupt and was no longer functioning. So they had a metro district, but no board of directors.
Yeah.
And in that case, again, it's their circumstances. I believe that that's what led them to make the appointments to fill that vacancy when they had to take over the metro district.
I'm just an advisor to you folks. I can just tell you my opinion and what I counsel you to do and not do. It's your decision. Ultimately, though, it's not like this path is being foreclosed for these folks that are interested in being on the board. They can approach the county commissioners and ask to be appointed. And if they are appointed, they would serve or if it didn't work out, they still have the opportunity to run for office this coming spring, is my understanding.
So can we put this off until after that election? Any actual decisions? This was a long process. We can continue to take our public input and feedback. But in terms of our making any decision, I think we should wait until that new board is elected. Has had a chance to be in.
As far as the requests from
Uh,
Cornerstone, you mean?
yeah,
Or
our current request to create the new districts, to split them and do that,
Oh,
because that
I
involves
see.
all those landowners.
Yeah.
Right, so I think we
Good
should
point.
wait until after that election,
Yes, good point. Good point.
and I think that would be a fair move for everyone involved.
I did have a conversation with Ted Cherry in Granby, the manager in Granby. Of course, you probably all saw the Sky High News article about when this same issue was brought up to the Granby Town Board. There was an election by the Board of Trustees, but according to Ted Cherry, the election wasn't to make appointment, but the the vote by the board was to make recommendations, not necessarily appointments. And he confirmed that that only the Board of County Commissioners can make appointments.
On the election in May, which really isn't all that
It's 8
far away.
months. It's 8 months, so.
Well, no, if there's an election, it doesn't, there's no need for us to even talk about appointing anybody. If that's an election, that's a separate process, but this is talking about appointing board members within a 2-month time frame. So that would be what, end of November, December timeframe versus waiting until May. Could we potentially make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners if it gets to that point and they haven't elected any or haven't appointed any board members to the Metro District?
I don't see a problem with expressing this board's opinion to the county commissioners.
I would imagine that would create more weight to the county commissioners. I'm just worried that they might like see this come across their desks and be like, meh. So I do want the county commissioners to actually act on this. So if that, I mean, I guess I'm asking for your opinion. Do you, if these folks say we want to fill these seats, will the county commissioners actually do it within 60 days?
I think they're pretty responsive, Brian. Yeah. I think if the request was made to Ed Moyer or somebody like that, yeah.
I did have a conversation with Ed Moyer as well. A heads up, so to speak, that this issue is being discussed and our interpretation of the law and so forth. And he said, we've never done that before. So this is something that they would probably have to review with their attorneys as well. Get legal advice before the Board of County Commissioners would make a decision either way. And from what I understand, talking with John about this and other issues, is that this doesn't come up very often, if at all, that they make those kind of appointments. So it's kind of new ground for not only us, but for definitely for the Grand County Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, just based off of both of our attorneys, I would say that we should not be doing this.
Yep.
And encourage Mr. Landon and the others to apply to the county. And then once they get that far, come back and maybe request that we make a recommendation to the county.
I believe there's 5 candidates now. Is that right?
I don't.
Yeah. I think so. There were 4
And
we got a
By
permit.
recommendation, I'm saying.
Yeah.
That they should apply, they should make the choice, not that we're gonna choose these 3.
okay. I would like the record to show, though, that I'm not willing to make any final decisions on this until they have a full board in place. However, that board gets done by election or by appointment.
Okay.
In terms of the requests that led up to this.
I agree with Katie.
Does anybody from the public want to address the board on this? Raise your hand digitally. You get 3 minutes. State your name and if you live in the town of Fraser or not, or if your address is in the town of Fraser, and you get 3 minutes. Anybody?
Looks like Joe wants to.
There's Joe.
Hey, first, thank you all for your public service. We entrust you to do the work and make the tough decisions for the community. It's not easy and often opens you up to criticism, and that certainly gets tough to bear. So I do appreciate your service. I do think that the agenda posting late on Monday was a little bit untimely, and think it should have been a little bit sooner. Glad this is only a discussion item and not an action item. I think that would probably have been a real problem. At the thick of it, this is an issue of responsible governance. The West Meadow Metropolitan District includes 255 independent third-party homeowners that deserve representation and transparency. I also trust that the town would not continue to operate with only 2 board members. I don't disagree that farther time should be afforded for careful study by the town as well as the public. We do disagree with Spencer Fain, and we have been rebuffed and punted, we believe wrongly. We believe the appointments could easily be made at the next meeting to approve the 2023 budget, which has to occur by December 15th, regardless, in order to approve that budget, in order to collect the 50 mil levy that's in place now next year. So a meeting is happening. In fact, your body did this same process about 2 years ago, and it was a pretty quick process. It did not cost a lot of money. It's disappointing the governmental body that we believe was created by the town is providing excuses, not willing to point applicants to fill empty board seats. If this was not happening by that body, this question around CRS 321905 sub 2 would not even be before the town right now. So I apologize that it's come to this. I do take issue with a number of things in the Lyons-Gaddis memo. I know others do as well. The Colorado legislative website for commonly applied rules of statutory construction states, if applying the plain language leads to an absurd result, or a result that is contrary to the obvious intent of the General Assembly, or the language is ambiguous, then the court will apply rules of statutory interpretation to construe the statute. That seems to be the case here. If you follow the plain language as I read it, and I know Kent, and I'd welcome another conversation to understand this better, but following the plain language of the statute, I believe would result in an observed result, because I do think there's a chance that the Board of County Commissioners would say that they, quote unquote, did not approve let me start over. The plain language of CRS, which is what Kent and the Lyons-Gaddis attorney are using, states, sorry, Mr. Whitmer, the Board of County Commissioners of the county which approved the organizational petition may appoint a director to fill such vacancy. Let me repeat that. The Board of County Commissioners of the county which approved the organizational petition. I may have some confusion here as to what the petition is versus a service plan, but on advice of counsel, we didn't think we did here. And I'd love to be straightened down on that and get an explanation. That'd be very helpful. But if it so happens, I believe a plain language reading, the Board of the County Commissioners would say, we don't have the authority because we didn't approve of the petition. And then we just go around in a circle here and we hang out in purgatory. And what that actually means is that everybody's throwing their hands up in the air and there is nobody who has authority for the West Meadow Metropolitan District. And that would be a shame. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Owner 2, go ahead. Please state your name and if you live in the town of Fraser. Can't hear you, so I will go ahead and mute you.
Okay, does anybody else want to address the board? Can you raise your hand digitally?
Owner 2.
Okay, owner 2, we're unmuting you, and if you can just state your name and if you live in the town of Fraser or not.
Do they have to unmute themselves, Michael?
No.
No.
All right, you are unmuted. Owner 2.
We can't hear you, owner too, so sounds like you're having some difficulties.
There
I
he
can,
is.
There we go.
I,
There he is. Hi, Steve.
hi, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can hear
Okay, good. Yes, my name is Steve Watts. I am an owner in Grand Park, which is part of Fraser. I have lived here for about 10 years now, and we are one of the original homeowners up here. And I have never understood why the Metropolitan District can ask for an increase without advising me or the other 255 people as part of the district of what the increase is for. And I really have no problem paying taxes or as part of the Metro District that I signed up for. However, to pay in perpetuity, i.e. for the rest of my life, I'm 72, for a tax so the rest of this development can be built out over the next 20 years is not what I signed up for. We signed up to pay the tax until it sunsets, and I believe it's about 8 or 9 years from now. And the tax that we signed up for, I believe, was a 50.5 mill levy. So I would have to agree 100% with Katie until more information is understood, until the people that are affected by this tax increase are understood and can hear what the reasoning for it is. If there's a proper reason for an increase, hey, it's got to be increased. But just to increase it and vote for an increase and an extension of that tax before all the things are laid out on the table, I do not agree with at all. So until I believe we get some representation on the board, I fully agree with Katie that no decision should be made on a tax increase or the extension of time for this mill levy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Raise your hand digitally. Okay, nobody else? Last chance. Okay, Jacob. You came in late, so we're gonna give you 3 minutes and then state your
That's
name
okay.
and if you live in the town of Fraser or not.
Thank you. Yeah, Jacob Schlesinger. I live in the town of Fraser, full-time resident of Grand Park. I just got here, so I don't know what's already been said. I don't want to repeat a whole bunch of things, but certainly agree with taking this slow and investigating and making sure that there's some representation on the West Meadow Special District Board from some of the residents in Grand Park and those that are affected by this mill levy increase. So I submitted some written comments and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, nobody else online? Okay, we are moving on then.
well, Paula.
I looked at you again and you went, okay. I asked Paula first.
Yes, okay.
Okay, sorry. Paula Stewart, I live in Fraser. I wanted to echo that I live in a metropolitan district because I live in Rendezvous and I've had a conversation with the CFO of Coval about when the bonds for Rendezvous will be sunset and so forth. And it was a very transparent conversation. And I would just encourage you to get all the facts and support what Katie is suggesting, that you don't move forward unless you have all the facts, because I believe that the 255 people who live there, and I know someone personally who left because they were so discouraged by what was happening in Grand Park, that they want to be represented. So I would encourage you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else from the board? Nope. Okay, we are now at updates, Fraser River Valley Regional Housing Partnership update.
If we can, we're still waiting for Mike Johnson, so I can proceed with the Byers Avenue Waterline update.
Okay.
For now. I believe Mike Johnson had another commitment. He may not make it until all of our business is done today, in which case we'll reschedule. The Byers Avenue Waterline replacement, I wanted to update the board and also the public on where we are in the process. Merrick is preparing bid documents that should go out by the end of next week. The engineering for Byers Avenue is complete now. The bid documents will have a closing by late October or sometime in early November. We wanted to get this out early, so we'll make sure that we get on people's radars. It is a $1.7 million project, and I've explained before the scope of the work. But there's a couple of aspects to that I wanted to talk about with the Board of Trustees. I'm looking to schedule a meeting with the residents of Byers Avenue that live between Norgren and what's the name of that other street? By the railroad track. What's that? Leonard Lane, excuse me, I'm sorry. November the 3rd, I want to hold a meeting with the residents there to explain what the project will entail. Part of the project, since we're relocating curb stops, would require access to private property. We've worked with Kent's reviewed a document that allows us to access private land. It's basically a license agreement with each individual landowner. If there's any disturbance to the land, it will include rebuilding that land with including a 1-year warranty as well. But we also need to address the fix for this winter. I've talked with Rob about what we can do as far as allowance. About the only fix that we can do is just to keep water running through the system, but we'd like to be able to control that to some degree and try to limit that to about 1,000 gallons a day for those residents, which with my discussions with Rob seems to be manageable for the town. I also have my utilities staff looking into mechanical devices that we can issue to the residents. It's called a bleeder valve. It controls the amount of water that can flow through the system in a given time, so many gallons per minute. And that can get us down right about the 1,000 gallons a day area. That gives a little bit more control over just simply somebody opening their valve and running anywhere from 200 to 1,000. I think we had several residents in discussions who were bleeding this past year, but still experienced line freezing. But we had other residents that were doing up to 1,000 gallons a day that didn't have a freezing problem. So I would like to explain that with the residents, let them understand where we are in the process, how this will work. We're also going to discuss our service line incentive program that we have in place and encourage the residents to consider these incentives to replace their individual service lines so that those lines could be lowered and therefore give them better protection for future freezing. But the water main project, the $1.7 million project, is everything that the town can do to ensure our infrastructure does not freeze and does not cause freezing. But that's the update that I wanted to give the board. I'm open for any questions you might have on that as well.
What liability does the town have if we give these residents these bleeder valves and their pipes freeze anything?
I'm not sure.
This question.
Okay.
Because if we say this is going to work and it freezes, then we're on the line.
Yeah.
Okay, any other comments, questions?
I have a question about Mill Avenue. The alley between Byers Avenue and Mill Avenue. Has that been replaced since Byers Avenue's been replaced? Or are the residents over there just used to their pipes freezing, or are they just quieter about it?
I think it's a private system.
Are they on a HOA back there?
All the trailers.
And
over there.
that's- And it's a private water system, so it's deeper. I don't know if it's deeper or shallow.
Well, no,
Or
they,
just
they,
sort of
they're tied into our water. It's
Yeah.
not a private.
But the
But I mean,
service
like,
line is to all of those trailers.
one service line goes to all of them, is that
I
correct?
think that they're all tied
Yeah,
in.
it's different. It's our water, but
Yeah.
the governance is different. Somehow.
I'm just curious if that would be
Financial
But
another
the gov-
project,
the
for
go- the governance.
or why
doesn't
would we do
stop
that
it
at the
from
same
freezing.
time?
Just saying, it's our water, it's our service line. Whether there's one
Because
user
I
or
would have never
10
came to the
on,
board with that concern, even though I live on Byers Avenue, you know?
Yeah.
I just always assumed
think-
it's 50
think that-
below,
I
run your,
think they have their own. It's kind of a goofy setup over there.
okay,
yeah.
You cannot talk to Mary. She's got her finger on the pulse of it. Mary Moynihan.
yeah, okay.
I have a map of utilities, it does come off the street, kind of goes through the middle of where those trailers are located.
Okay.
It's just kind of it is kind of an odd extension for those trailers.
And obviously deeper.
And it's deeper than? Is it showed down?
I can't exactly-
Okay. Any other updates? No. I don't want to call out.
Okay.
So let's just reschedule Mike, because we're getting ready to go into executive session.
That'd be fine.
Maybe you can come in afterward.
I believe his schedule was looking somewhere around 7:10, 7:20. So,
Right.
you know, that's
Right.
we'll be deep in the executive session by that time.
The, is this okay to ask one budget question? Before we move on? It's not an update, it's just a question that I have. Okay, so this. Someone out there mentioned that the West Mountain 50 mil, something was gonna be affecting this budget. Is there anything in this budget that is tied into that decision?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, our property taxes are tied to our own town mill levy and it does not impact that.
It's nothing in our budget. Thank you for that.
I think
clarification.
it's their budget.
Okay.
That they're talking about and that the 50 mils can't be approved without having a meeting. Right?
Could
Is that-
somebody text Mike and let him know that we are call or email or whatever? Okay,
Okay.
are we done with updates? Anybody else?
After the last 2 weeks. I think we're
We'll
good.
make a motion. Go on executive.
Yeah. I move to enter into an executive session for a conference with the town attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS section 24-6, 402-4B, and for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6, 402-4E. Regarding litigation, including town manager Ed Cannon, assistant town manager Michael Brack, town attorney Kent Whitmer.
There a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? Okay, public, we will not be coming back because the only thing left after executive session is to adjourn. Just so you know, so you don't need to stick around. And then now that
Right.
you're not our water attorney,
Right.
you can do this one.
Yeah. So as town matters that will be discussed in this executive session are privileged and the session does not need to be recorded.
Thank you.
still got people.